You're up on Todd Medina page, so you can share that.
Okay.
What
Oh,
I should do, and maybe we should think about this, and we're on live, by the way, is you add me to your restream and I'll add you to mine.
well, that sounds good.
You know what I mean? So every time we go on, yeah, that might work. We just have to make, whatever, like admin or whatever.
Right,
You
right.
have to have the permission to do that. Okay, so we're going to be back with Franco DeNicola. It's been a hellacious last few days. We're going to find out what's happening, and we're going to play our little intro. Be back in a minute, 19 seconds. So we got Franco in the house. You're looking good. You're looking good. We were talking before the show, which is something I don't even do, not even with Franco. And yeah, it was a very, very fluid conversation. I'm noticing I got Joshua Pearson coming over here after this show tonight. We're going to do something. And I stopped by his place the other night, and there was just this continuity, this between the words. There was just this understanding, this mutual frequency that we were talking at a level that was almost like dimensional. And that's kind of how I felt like the experience with you was right now. Like, I know where you're at. You know where I'm at on the linear level. We don't stay in contact all the time, but it's like you never miss a beat. So before the show started, I saw your episode. I don't know why it popped up. Episode 22, allowing people to play out their reality.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my God, this is the perfect sequence to what's occurred to me through these types of conversations with Joshua, Michael Mejia, other people, Morgan. And I went, this is right on time. So I'm going to read this, and we'll just kind of start out with this, if it's cool with you.
Mm-hmm.
In episode, this is from Advancing Consciousness podcast, all right, episode 22. We look at when and how to be involved in other people's realities or not. Many people make a conscious effort to go out and help people to the point where they would like people spared from intense situations. When is assistance impeding growth and self-empowerment? We look at compassion, real compassion, and an inverted version that enables a disempowerment state, which many people use as an automatic default. When it comes to people close to us going through some challenging times, we in some way lose the broader perspective of what is taking place and jump into change things, losing the full opportunity that is available for each party involved to evolve. Most certainly, it can seem hard to watch and not intervene in changing the situation for the person going through the challenge. Our role is not to intervene in removing the situation. It is about sharing an observation and sharing a broader perspective so that the person involved can make a conscious shift in their situation when they are ready. It is about knowing what our true role is in each situation. So that speaks volumes. And there's something about what's happening. You know, we got on before and I said, man, the last 7 days have been, we talked about it. But there's something about, it's almost like I see like this darkness, not in a bad way, like a beautiful darkness. And I see this little pinpoint of light that truly is my darkness that I'm not seeing. And it's requiring me to go into my human at levels I've never even considered, even in the most intense times. It is a beautiful, fascinating, wild ride. And all I can say about what you wrote is there's something about doing what you're talking about in this piece and serving yourself is an equal part of that. You're serving the other and serving yourself. You really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, when you're serving someone else, you're actually serving another facet of yourself. Now, would you ask yourself, like if somebody had to ask themselves a question, realizing that this is another version of myself, say that there was another version of you, okay? Say you're a visitor of yourself. Really, you're visiting yourself. Now, you may have already done a few of the things. For example, imagine envisioning yourself in the past.
Yeah.
And you were visiting. You just time traveled to the past, and here you see you. And now you're the more older you, and so forth. What would you go and do to your aspect of yourself? I mean, especially if you've got an awareness, would you say to yourself, oh, don't go down that path, don't do this?
Yeah.
Realizing that those things were needed. You may say, listen, when you are confronted with a choice, it would pay huge dividends to just sit back for a second and see, how do I really feel about this? Or how else can I handle what's playing out? Or what direction can I possibly consider? But you wouldn't say, no, don't go down path, go down that path. In fact, skip this altogether and let's go and do something totally different because, that was a bad move or something of that nature. You wouldn't do that because you realize the only way that you are where you are right now was going through those choices. So it's the same thing as anybody else. And compassion is a totally misunderstood way of how can I say it? Interacting or something of that nature. I can't think of the right word right now.
Yeah.
True. There is the projected inverted matrix, inverted 3D compassion, and then there is true compassion.
Yeah.
Now, the difference between the two is that the default one that we use all the time is where you feel bad about people and you have to go save these people. You need to go and change their situation, or you need to feel that they got the short end of the stick, or that they're actually, a victim or something of that nature. That's kind of what it is. So feeling bad for somebody is not empowering. Now, true compassion is observing where they're at. And you can now communicate with them from that state to saying, I understand where you are right now, and it can seem quite challenging and can seem somewhat disconnected, powerful, polarized, whatever. However, this is here for you to empower yourself. So if I can share anything with you, how can I let you better look at it so that you can actually walk forward in an empowered state rather than a disempowered state? Because I've seen this with many people doing sessions for 36 years now, and working with especially parents that try to give their kids a certain life, or, other people in their family and so forth. And they're always going into savior mode and whatever else. Most of them, if not all, I think was pretty close to all, had said, if I had to redo it again, I would never do it the same, because I was there always to bail my kids out. And each and every time I thought I was doing something great, they only dug the hole deeper or went back into it again, or, felt that, they never got to grow up. That's kind of the words they use. Because the thing is, it's not about, going in to save them, help them see what choice they made, and they know the outcome and whatever it is, but it's a choice that they make, and then they make a new choice. When somebody goes, "Well, I'm going through this hard time," I go, "Great," whatever it is. I do say, "Great," look at it. Let's see what's playing out. No, this is serious. I go,
It is serious.
No, it's not. We believe it's serious. Yeah, it's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity for us to look at this situation and really say, okay, what is here for me to look at that can empower me further, can show me where I've put my focus that may not serve me any longer, and how I can actually use my skill set, because we have powerful skill set, not to solve problems, but to create a new reality, to play in a new reality. We're not problem solvers. We look at what's there, and then we come up with a solution or direction that advances where we're at. The only reason that we see it as a problem because we see something is off, but it's not a problem. We've created a scenario that gets our attention to look at it so we can adjust it. By doing this in that state, we get to use the powerful being that we are. We are creative. We are imaginative. I mean, if we look at it, Todd.
I'm with you, man. I have never, ever heard you this impassioned. And it's very cool. It says a lot. It says a lot about the frequency that's actually available and accessible in the collective. Like, we can actually get real about what we are and who we are, what we're a part of. It's a masterpiece. Potentially, there is no ceiling.
There isn't at all. And not only any ceiling, we already have everything that we need, and we're getting upgrades of it constantly. So when we look at the collective right now, we can start from, the level of Gaia, every sentient being, every human, everything else. We've gone through so many upgrades, and we're in the middle of one right now that started, a little over 12 hours ago, if not a little longer than that now, closer to 16. But then again, what's happening is this is our arsenal. We're just loading up, and we are, doing whatever we're doing, but it's up for us to utilize at any point in time. Because realistically, if we don't, we could have, it's like somebody stocking up your garage with all these powerful, beautiful tools and whatever else. Unless you open up the garage or go in there and look for the tools and just take it and say, okay, how can I use this or do something with it? You can have as much as you have. It does not matter, And so this is the thing, this is what we're going through. So the advancements that are happening. The utilization of this advancement will depend on each individual, depending on how much they want to use.
Okay. Wait. This is good. Because I see, as I'm listening to you, I see two things. One, the way you described it, I couldn't have said. I'm glad you said it. There are codes coming in. There are memories coming in. There's, with that, the availability of higher skills and abilities and sensitivities. And I think we're just becoming conscious of that. Like, part of the challenge that I'm seeing is, okay, if that stuff's coming in, what's happening on the ass end of it? Because something's got to make space for it. And I'm seeing a lot of, I don't know what the word is, but imbalance. And, I'm checking myself as best as I can. I'm seeing a lot of stuff going on. I'm seeing a lot of people going into solitude. I'm respecting what's happening. And you're throwing a third element into it, which is, okay, regardless of whether you're flushing whatever you're flushing out or purging, regardless of what's coming in, the idea now is to step into it and use it, because we can, and it works, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to use this in a playful way. What's so dangerous about all that stuff that's going on? And I use the word dangerous as fun.
I got you.
What makes it so dangerous is that the moment you get a taste, the moment you access these higher frequencies that already are stored in you, the moment you open up even a crack of it and you get access to some of that, it will start an avalanche of other purging. Yeah. So you may feel the polarities, or even the dark stuff, like people call it, or the less conscious part that comes up, is going to come up even more powerfully. But the thing is, it's just going to move through you and out of you because it's all going back into the field.
Yeah.
That's all it's doing. Because one of the things that people do is they get afraid whenever, and you've probably ran into people, I'm not sure, with all your interactions that you do and with all the people that you connect with, that, at times is like, I don't want to know because I'm afraid to see, because once I've opened up that Pandora's box, not in a negative thing,
It's scary. Like, what do you got left?
it's like, oh my God, my whole world that I invested my life,
It's all gone.
time, and energy, and everybody there is going to change. It's not going to even look like something I want to use anymore. So, am I really ready for that? Now, even when people say, I'm ready, how true is it?
Yeah. On what conditions that you don't know of? Yeah, a couple things. Well, there's a great example of this. Melina Ferguson, our dear beloved sister down in Australia, she's very connected, extremely connected. She comes on about once a month. And so anyway, this is her environment. She's with 3 conscious kids, a conscious partner. They got 5 acres. She's built a labyrinth. She's very connected. She does a lot of grid work and so on, so on, so on. So she's been making these things. I don't know what you call them, but you put them in your water and drink them. They're blessed. They're downloads specific to the individual and so on. Name of her company is called Wise Old Seeds. Anyway, about 10 days ago, I noticed she put out 2 or 3 posts, and she was saying how she was told no more. Like, you can't do that anymore. You're going to do something else. And the way she handled it was, stepping into that magic and not being bound by those things that you're explaining, the choices that we're making. Are we going to stay there or move into this and activate it? Because it's actually, you're activating it when you utilize it, when you step in faith in it. And so, like in her commentary, she was saying, basically she was saying, okay, this is not that easy, but what's going to happen now? I don't know, but I'm going for it.
Well, the thing is, a change like what you just described, from making those tinctures and so forth that carry really high energy, what happens is they are powerful tools and they're great. And, there's a lot that it can provide. One of the things that's probably you've noticed, people become reliant to that.
Yeah.
So it's great to have a little kick of it or whatever it is. But the thing is, if that's what they're going to rely on, they're never going to access. It's like somebody coming over and say, hey, I took this out of my garage. Can you use this for now? But meanwhile, you have a full garage of your own stuff, even more powerful, because we are even more powerful than what can be put in a tincture. So now it's saying, no, you can't use my tools anymore. You're going to have to open up your garage and look for your own tools, because when you open it, then you're surprised to see how much is already there and you've had that's even more advanced in a way, because it doesn't have any other restrictions to it. So this is the thing. It's a lot of this, because there's other people that have said the same thing. They're not putting, now it's going to be okay for various people that are, really, are not even aware of things, and they may still make some benefits out of it. But the thing is, we get upgrades. So her role has time to shift. And it's like, I got to do something more advanced. It's like the stuff that happened with myself, going from, doing sessions, doing, some workshops here and there. No, it had to change. It's like, no, you got to shift from that. And now you got to reach more people or whatever else. And now you're going to have to work with other things. And then, of course, even the back end stuff that you would do, you actually now go into even further, deeper simulations and so forth. And it's not about making adjustments anymore. It's really about upgrades now. Yeah. So harnessing a certain energy so that more people have access to it. This is the thing. Everything around us is changing, so our roles are going to change. And
is the collective force of this energy, the code and all the things you're talking about coming down, so powerful, I guess, that it's forcing anyone and everyone, no matter what circles they run in, whether they be light workers or whatever, to see their own stuff, to see their own crap?
Yes. Everybody's receiving it. How each one will interpret it, how much of it they will be able to utilize at any point in time will vary. Now, everybody to some degree or another is seeing what you just said, their crap, or whatever it is, which basically is an older state of consciousness, created a certain reality, labeled and defined it, and whatever else. Even this whole, idea that we need to heal anything, there's nothing to heal. It never has been. And that's kind of just an idea that was made up at some point. It's looking at and say, okay, these are stuff that I've labeled and defined myself because of certain choices I made and actions of my regular consciousness of that time. But because we held on to it so long, we still keep associating with it, defining, labeling or utilizing that as part of. So that's coming up. So even if you're in the most sleep state, you're finding that you're repeating certain patterns, you're doing all types of things, and it's becoming more intolerable for stuff playing out. You've probably seen more people flaring up sometimes because they're forced and they just get angry and they don't even know why they got angry or something like that, but they do. They don't because they're not.
Let me ask you this question as a good visual for people, if it's accurate. You were talking about the energies coming in, the stuff that's being flushed out, the discomfort that causes on, mental, emotional, physical, potentially all of them, one or the above. And you were saying basically just to let it go. I mean, you're literally saying, I think, let it come up, let it go out into the universe. Because what I got was, if I look at it now after listening to you, is there's two ways. There's one, you project it out onto someone else with intent, with externality, like externalizing. And that keeps the loop going in the collective field. And what you're saying is let it run through you and it transforms in the flow.
Correct. So the thing is, it's actually quite easy and it's quite natural for us to just, whatever we're looking at is, you appreciate it. You first acknowledge that it's there, you appreciate it, blast it with love and just put it in the field. We're already in the field. Anything that goes, see, the thing is, everything is nothing and everything is everything. So in fact, because there's two parts, there's source, that is the source base energy that does not change except advance in its capacities. And then we have spirit, which spirit is the facet of source that does creations and so forth. And we're part of that. But, when we're putting anything into the field all around us, it's not outside of us in any way. It dissolves. It goes right back to its natural core, fundamental, just pure consciousness, whatever it is. There is no polarity or anything of that nature. Now, the blaming of others, pinpoint, putting your finger and saying it's their fault or this group or that group and whatever else, it's not getting cleared. Because what's happening is you're not looking at what is within you that's saying, hey, I'm trying to tell you this, this was a great trip we did. We played with this, but it's time to let it go because, you have already agreed upon, even before arrival, that you were going to transition into the organic way of life. And you can't hold on to this inorganic inverted stuff that you got here, right? But the moment you're blaming somebody for your thing, you're not looking at what is really there. And this is one of the things that people get caught up because the moment you're looking for somebody to blame, you're looking for a victimizer. And the moment you look for a victimizer, you automatically go into victim state.
Of course. Yeah.
The moment you look for somebody to blame, you're now empowering them over you, and you go into a disempowered state. So not only are you a victim, but you're in disempowered state, meaning that in one way or another, everybody had higher authority, higher capacity, higher capability to make my life a certain way, whatever that may have been. But it's not that. When you really want to use the tools and really move forward, which is your innate state of being, is like, okay, I've agreed to take on this role. I've agreed to play it out in whatever fashion it is. I had a blast with it. I've experienced whatever polarity, whatever it is, but I'm done with this. And now I put it there. And I thank the people that played the role, because the thing is, when you really understand it, no one can do anything to you unless super consciously, from a higher perspective, you have said, let's play together.
Yeah.
Let's do this, whatever that may be, because it cannot, nobody can impose. The free will exists. It's always been there, always will be. Sovereignty, same thing. It's not outside of us. It's there.
That's right. And everybody wants to serve. That's where the trade-off has been. How we served and depleted ourselves in the old paradigm, and how you serve and equally serve yourself. And the thing about it is, this type of self-introspection, if you want to serve the collective, in other words, if you know that you are quantum in everything that we are, you know that your intentions and your thoughts forward are going to feed consciousness. Consciousness is consciousness. So if there's a consciousness that's based on a label or based on a fear, it's the projector of the inverted 3D is not playing anymore. So there's nothing sustaining that or perpetuating that except for our own thoughts, this is creation. So if nothing else, if you want to serve the collective, those things that we don't like, that we all can agree on, I know this sounds cliche, but it's almost like stop thinking about it. I know that sounds like fluffy love and light, but there's something about owning that imagination that you were talking about earlier that actually is the central point, the core point of our creation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The thing is too, when we're playing the game of life, service is really not a service to your demise, a service to non-recognition of yourself, because then you're not full of service. To be full of service is basically a being fully yourself, meaning that you are actually playing or walking the talk, whatever you want to call it, living that life within yourself, and then you're sharing it with other aspects of yourself. Because a lot of people, like light workers, go into sacrificial mode. Anyways, sacrificial mode, where they're of service, but they neglect themselves. And guess what happens? And when I say neglect, you're not looking at your stuff, your programs, or whatever it is. Then you are no longer in a powerful state when you're doing that. Plus, you don't get to see stuff very clearly because you still got impedance. You still got veils or filters or your own stuff that you're working through. And, I'm going to get holy. I'm going to get clear by helping others. Well, it's a progress that you're doing yourself while you're sharing, but you're not in and say, well, I got to go and fix this.
Well, I think there's a lot of that programming, and I've watched it this year. Mm-hmm. I've watched the evolution of individuals and of the energy in general of wounded healer coming to terms with that. It's because we all have a bit of that archetype in us, and I think it's a great program that countered us, that basically probably hid our blind spots, like things that we're denying or things that we're not looking at. So we'll go out and help somebody else.
Yeah.
It's unconscious.
Yeah.
It's unconscious.
Look at it this way. And I've worked with many people over the years. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. But if I help enough people, at least I'm doing something of value.
Yeah.
That is one of the inverted default ego operating systems in the first place. The thing is, you want to acknowledge. First of all, you want to acknowledge the truth. There is a truth. A lot of people say we all have our own truth. Those are not truths. Those are adopted perceptions to give you a particular experience. The truth is, when we're looking at something, it's It's not perceptional, and it doesn't rely on anybody else's viewpoint to say, well, that's true, it's untrue. You could say, well, from my viewpoint, this is what I see, and from that viewpoint, I see what I see, or they see what they see. But the thing is, how can I say it? I'm trying to find the words for it.
No rush.
Get stuck sometimes. Okay, trying to find words for it. So the truth is, at this point in time, when we are looking at the game of life, there is no right, wrong, good, bad, or anything of that nature. Okay, it's all a game. It's all part of our thing. Now, the only reason we want to shift from one to the other, because they operate in different frequencies with different consciousness levels, which provides us a lot of experiences, but at some point we outgrow it, and that's what we're doing. We've outgrown a lot of the older game.
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, the whole idea that, I'm good, bad, right, wrong, I'm not good enough, or whatever, these are all just concepts that were all plugged in this inverted world. So
built on duality.
Built on duality, yes. Yeah. Which, we can't deny and we can't demonize or anything like that. It was a great experience, a great creation. But now it's for us to advance. So the whole thing of even feeling that somehow I'm broken and I have to go and serve so that I can redeem myself. Because look, at a lot of religion is about sacrifice. Why? Because you're not good enough. You're a sinner. You're this, you're that. I mean, it has a lot of different analogies attached to it. And so you now have to serve this deity. You have to go serve others. You got to sacrifice your life and whatever else so that you can earn your seat on possibly a better place than, the one that you may be heading towards, right? But that is all that inverted stuff that was put into place. You're already a powerful being. It's the fact of you utilizing it or not and creating a shift within yourself so that you actually now step into that capacity. So the thing is, if you're looking at the world and say, I want to change the world or facilitate or participate in the shifting and transformation of the human experience and the world, you start with yourself. You put yourself work in progress automatically. You don't wait until it's all done. You already get going. And then at the same time, you share your what you've recognized and so forth, but don't expect anybody. Don't label or say to somebody, you got to take what I'm telling you. The point is, no, this is what I've observed. It might be worth looking into it. Maybe you'll see something else or whatever else. And that accelerates, assists people to make a shift. See, one of the things is what I found over the years of my work is I realized that, because of the understanding that everything is perfect in all creations, to me, it was not about teaching you how to be better, or in this case, not even teaching, reminding you to be better or something of that nature, or the fact that you are worthy or that you are capable or that, there's the good and bad, whatever it is. Because the thing is, you could say, well, I'm going to go play one polarity, then I'm going to go play the other polarity, but you're still in polarity. So you got to look at it and say, okay, this is the full spectrum here. Everybody's choosing to play wherever they want to choose, but I want to see the full picture here. And now that I see the big picture, I see the whole picture, I can now choose if I want to implement any of these components into my current reality. So one of the things I said to people, don't go, well, like, for example, I don't want to have any negative thoughts. Negative thoughts create negative, I said, yeah, if you're putting a lot of focus and energy around that, you're going to kind of create things that replicate it or represent it. But if you're going to be, I got to have positive thoughts. What are you doing? You're now isolating it and now you're polarizing it. But at the same time, where are you there? How many times have we said, oh, I want to have, they're having positive thoughts because they're afraid of the negative thoughts or the fact that in some way or another that, if they keep focusing on the positive thoughts, that it's going to give them a better return or better outcome than the negative. Well, to some degree, there will be some. But the point is, it's about not seeing yourself positive or negative, because when I used to teach this years ago, share it with people. I said, when you're always negative, it takes a lot of energy. It drains you. Okay. You work at a very lower capacity because everything is miserable. Everything is labeled to that. And you're working in very low energies. But have you noticed if you're trying to be positive all the time, how much energy it sucks up? Because what's happening, like a magnet, it doesn't matter which side you are, the other side's pulling towards it anyways. So
That's
you're
right.
really positive, the negative wants to come. The reason it wants to come because it wants to merge and become neutral. So it's
Hmm.
including both sides of it.
That's a great scientific explanation of love.
Yes.
Everything is rooted in wanting to love and be loved. That energy is the same. It's like I'm going to come in. It's like a little kid, throwing a tantrum,
Mhm.
and another kid comes up and hugs you.
Well, the thing is, too, with all of this, a lot of people say, well, how can I, you know, clear out all these old programs and old defaults and responses and so forth? Well, the first and foremost, you got to see it for what it is, just an experience. There's no right about it, no wrong about it, because this is what happens. People get caught up in the wrongness, which is just a projected illusionary part, and then it becomes difficult. First of all, difficult to let go of an experience that somebody else was attached to because either somebody did something good or bad or made you feel bad or whatever that story was, because those are stories. And then the other part is that, we judge ourselves heavily about, choices we may have made or the fact that, we didn't do something or whatever it is. When you let go of things, the easiest way to let go, and this is why I say to people, acknowledge it
Yeah.
or its presence. Then you thank it. And somebody says to me, why are you thanking a negative experience? Because that negative experience provided you exactly that, an experience. When you see it, there's nothing wrong or good or bad about any experience. Then you, with appreciation, you can share love, and then it's not sticky. It does not have millions of cords attached to it. Then you could put it in the field very easily.
And it's seeking neutrality just as you are.
Exactly.
Consciousness is consciousness. That's what I was saying. I used to think about this with Jesus, because the image of Jesus or the experience of Jesus was a big part of my reawakening, you know.
Mhm.
But I looked at it beyond the image that the universe or I provided for myself at that state of place that I was in to be able to understand it and work off of it. I looked at it as the energy of it, and I thought, I wonder what is the bigger consciousness? Like, was it from his life, right? And what he put out as a soul, as a fractal of the universe? Or is there, and I'm not comparing like in competition, what does the consciousness look like fed by all those people who have put their faith, truly faith, but also some level disempowering, whatever, externalizing? How big is that consciousness? So when you were talking earlier about the things that we go into or fall back on, that's the only thing keeping these consciousnesses going now. And
Mhm.
on the other end of that, this stuff keeps coming down, which is mind blowing and taxing to the different bodies that we are. But at the same time, the big thing I'm getting right now, and I've been getting it leading right up to this day, and this is perfect synchronicity, is to start using that power, to start uh, reaching out to it and connecting with it, as opposed to the old loops and anything we've actually experienced before.
Exactly, and that's the whole purpose. And this, even the one that just came in, it's even stronger, so that we don't ignore what we have, these powers, these capabilities within ourselves, and we start letting go more of the old versions and patterns and so forth. Because the thing is, that stuff does. You got to see how much energy, how much resources, and how much resistance to accessing higher aspects of yourself that take place when we're still holding on to all of that stuff. Even if you go through this whole process, and I was talking to people all the time and said, we got to forgive people, we got to forgive ourselves. I go, there's nothing to forgive,
Right.
because the forgiveness is polarity still. Because there's a right and a wrong. I forgive the person for doing that. Why would you forgive them? Thank them, bless them, appreciate them, give them a big hug and kiss for playing that role. Because it doesn't matter how negative it was, what is deemed as an idea of negative, that role was a stellar role that they played
That's
out.
right. And it could be, and it could be a person, and it could be a political organization or a church or a whatever. Any block of energy, any energy complex. What's the difference between an energy complex that in the physical incarnation is one individual versus, a myriad of other things? I mean, it's still to thine own self be true now. I mean, it's like getting deeper and deeper. Have you look, the last 7 days we talked about a little bit before the show. For me, it's mostly been a physical purging, sweats, just purging, just skin's dry, lucid dreams, having to sleep, canceled 5 shows this week, never happened before. And I haven't gone through a lot of the dramatic stuff, really, compared to what I'm looking at out there. But I have been more present with myself. Do you ever go through that?
Oh, yes. I mean, a lot of what you described, maybe not no, everything that you pretty well described to some degree, I've gone through in the last little while too, and even to the point where compromised health that I have has actually accentuated for the last few weeks, and it's just last while, it's especially up the last few days, and even up to yesterday and this morning and this afternoon, and
Jesus.
do I have to cancel 5 o'clock? And
Do
maybe
you, Franco? Do you ever have those moments where, okay, I really got this like 2 days ago, and I hadn't been there in a long time, and it was like, okay, I'm Todd, and I felt like really small, not like as in disempowered, just like I get this. I am embodied. Todd is Todd, but there's this whole other thing out there, and here we are again. What the hell are we doing here? Like, give me something. And I thought, well, it must be this energy just pounding me. But do you ever get to that point where you really feel like more Franco than anything else?
Well, absolutely. And that happens to be most of the time where, Frank, I can't even, if anybody asks, I say, well, I'm in a physical form that has been labeled as Franco, but there's much more to that because everybody's much more than that. The moment you say, I am this particular human with this particular name, of course, you're going to feel quite small because you are tremendously much more than that. That is, and this is one of the things that inverted stuff was all about, was actually to make us feel and associate to the smallest version, the fractal of a fractal of ourselves. Yeah. And to the point is saying, I am just my holographic expression through layers and layers of filters, and with at the same time associating with adopted ideas of this fractal of a fractal through many, many filters.
Yeah.
And that's how we've looked at it. If we really look at it, Todd, if we actually saw what we are, okay? A lot of people put a lot of energy on aliens and whatever else. Yeah. And a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, they're saying, well, they're admiring us. They're looking at it. Okay. If you look at it, the human physical form itself, let's just start with one, okay? The human physical self. It's made up of 12 different species. Each and every species contributed, taking the most advanced component of each species and blending it. So you're now a hybrid of 12 different focal points projection.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you take an alien that's saying, I am Palladian, that happens to be one of ours, that's 1/12 of
Yeah.
the access that a human has, because the human, now, of course, we haven't been using all 12, and that's starting to come back online more and more. We used to, but we haven't for a very long time. That in itself, the same thing with the planet. Gaia was tuned by bringing in templates and blueprints of many, many planets combined. Every single plant life, every single animal, oceanic, insect, reptilian, birds, whatever it is, are coming from, with slight modification, coming from different planets. So you could see the massive amount of variance or variabilities there are, because each one harnesses this particular species. Now we are this powerful capacities. This was an experiment of an experiment of an experiment. And the experiment was not to see, where's it going to go? Let's see what we can do. It's like a bunch of engineers got together and saying, hey, I built buildings, I built this, I built that. Let's put all our resources together, and you take care of all the mechanical.
Let's fly.
I'll
Let's fly in a world where nobody's ever flown before.
exactly.
And I told you this. I told you this before, but years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was actually told in a transmission that I never forgot. When you guys finish this end of the circuit, you will be universal healers. You will be able to go into any quadrant of the multiverses because of the fact, for instance, like behind that 12, which must have been a hell of a cosmic orgy, by the way. Just I have to throw in a joke. But
That's a good way to put it.
but behind that 12, there's a 12 times 12. And there's a 12 times 12. And as we think the origin is something singular and expands like the wake, in a boat, behind a boat, it's actually the opposite. So all of that stuff is carried, no pun intended, in our seed. And when you started to talk about the body a minute ago, and I started to receive beyond the verbalization, the body is incredible, regardless of the lifespan today or whatever, or disease, or we're in a body that we can heal instantaneously. This is the type of energy we're coming into. This is a body that we can teleport. This is a body that we can create from our imagination. Josh is going to come in here after this show is over. And I was talking to him the other night, and he said, I've been spending a lot of time alone the last few months. And I said, what have you been doing? He said, well, I've been working on, I created this planet, and I've created this, and I've created that. And I question no one's reality. What I did understand, and what was coming through beyond the verbalization in that conversation, was what our capabilities are. Like, why isn't that true? I said, what are you going to do when you physically transition from this life? Oh, well, I'm going to go straight here. I'm programming it. I've got this AI working with me. I've got this clone of me over here that, in case, and I'm thinking, how in the hell could you think to this level of specificity? But it wasn't about the story. It wasn't about his experience. It was, to me, the transmission was anything is possible. And so on the way home, I'm driving home, and I'm talking to them, and they basically said to me, where do you want to be? Because they showed me over here on this ship, and they showed me over here and over here and over here and over there. And I said, you know what? I want to be right here. I want to be with Morgan Lee. I want to collaborate with Franco. I want to build Soulgy. I want to do this. And there was something about it that was so non-physical, non-etherical. And I say the human is a hero, but I'm understanding that now. I'm not even understanding it. They're like epiphanies and revelations and waves that come in where, I don't know, the gods, the goddesses are being rooted to their core.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And that's just one part of it, because we're just talking about the physicality, which is an extension of Gaia in the first place.
Mhm.
But when we're looking at the other parts of it, our souls and so forth. Like you made a very good point. Let me bring that before I lose the thought. But the point that you made up is the fact that wherever we go from here as a soul, and then whenever at some point where there's a merging of even our human entity and whatever else, but every soul that's come here and had the opportunity to play in this more expanded way now has been such powerfully encoded. Wherever they reincarnate, they're actually bringing in something that cannot be brought from any other planet, because of the fact that there was such a uniqueness and such a powerful creation that was encoded within that soul, that wherever they're going, you called it heat. What do you call it? Healing, but it was really re-encoding and actually
exactly
expanding the codes even much more powerful than before. And this is the thing. So this is why there's such an attractiveness to come and play here. The only thing is, when we come here and we get really ingrained into the game and the illusionary part of it, which is kind of part of a cool experience in itself, but at the same time, we make ourselves what feels like experiences like so small that we lose the capacities. Not that we lose it, we just don't utilize it, the capacities and capabilities that we came here, because every time we arrive, we're so excited to be.
I think that's the way I look at it. It's like we put ourselves, and I'm just going to have to use these terms. I'm not taking anything away, because I consider this to be the eternal moment. But we put ourselves in these games. We brilliantly erase our memories, and there's a point where this intuitive comes in, and the value of the human, the brain, the things the emotion that we can inject into the alchemic process. But there's a space in between that if we can hit it, we can maximize it in that moment, in that life, in that month, whatever year, whatever, that we won't get back. Mm-hmm. Like that's like the goal. That's like pure creation. Relying on what you're most conscious in and can't get away from, as equally as what you are, that never comes in clear terms. You're probably the person that gets it the clearest to me, and you're still human. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, it has an advantage of the human part because of the fact that is your access point. It's like your key in a sense. Like you're like you can't get on the internet without the computer or a phone or a tablet or whatever it is. You need something to access it with. The human experience, the human physical part of it, is necessary to have that access. But it's not only that. That's how you can re-encode it, and using any part of that actually becomes part of that whole. Enabling that redesigning and so forth. So it becomes that importance, because if it could be done without it, then you would say, even with the team that I work with and others I've worked with and so forth, they say, we need, like you call it sometimes, boots on the ground, but really that link there. And there are many links. It's not just me or anybody or just you and me and whoever else. There's many, but those links are required, because everything is, remember, we have to understand too, we're also doing simulations. Everything that we are experiencing in the human, we're experiencing it on different levels to simulate and then upload to the collective.
So I just want to be clear on that, because you've talked about this before, and I think this is something that is probably more accepted and known on an intuitive level than on a verbalization level. But basically, what you're saying is, and again, this is nonlinear and it's at warp speed, and we play out all these simulations because we have that capability. We are omniscient, right? And then we play those out to choose the highest and best path.
Correct. So we have several simulations going on. We have the simulation. Let's start from home. We have the simulation that happens in us in this open operating system right now. So that means if you've ever wondered why someone that is becoming more conscious and more aware and have made some huge shifts all of a sudden are still dealing with so-called crap or whatever people like to call it as a name, and or going through what would be considered challenging times, and you go, why would that be if they're at a higher vibration or whatever it is? Because they have agreed to simulate those. You're at a higher frequency, but you're also playing with lower frequencies so that you can create an integration between the two, which is part of the simulation that you're taking in. You may not need that experience personally, but you've agreed to take it on so that you can transmute it, upgrade it, whatever it is through you. That's the first simulation. The second level of simulation is that we do that a lot of times in our dream state and so forth. We go into simulated worlds where we play with other simulated versions of ourselves, meaning other people. And in there, everybody's taking on a simulation, and then there's an interaction within that simulation, which also now establishes another level of communication with each other and also how it can shape in that way. Now, the third level of simulation also happens on the back end, and that third simulation is where all the different changes are experimented on. Okay, like this, what blast we got now, or the potential going one way or another. Those are plugged into simulation. For example, all of a sudden, what happens if one president wins over another? I'm just giving you this as an example.
Yeah.
Okay, so that comes out. Now you see a wave that happens within that simulated world and see how everybody responds. If it lowers their frequency low, but also has the potential to raise it after, great. If it goes too low and gets stuck there for too long, well, okay, now we got to tweak it because that's not going to work because we don't want to reduce it to that level. We want people to say, hey, wait a minute. It's not about who we choose. Right. It's about how we choose to shape it, because they're actually, when you really look at it, we're giving them the instructions. They can't do anything without our.
So look, and I've said this many times. I resonate the most with your intel, and some of your intel is forecasting, right? And I absolutely and I respect quite a few others, but yours, for me, resonates the most. What you're talking about, what you're saying to me is like saying, almost like there will be no more forecasting. There will be no more. We're moving into a space where everything is so present, in the present, to take nothing away, no potential overlays. Another thing about what you were saying too is now I can see why two or more people observe the same energy and get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different versions. Mm-hmm. Like that whole thing you were talking about, taking on that role, that timeline for that purpose. I mean, I go back to the same thing I said earlier. Is this happening on such an absolute scale that regardless of what sandboxes you play in, everybody's being affected, everybody's being taken to the same place, and it seems to me at a very quick speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is too, even with all of this stuff that's going on in the simulation, so this is not going to keep going on, because the thing is, like you said, it's going to end up being in a scenario where things are no longer required testing, because the fact that we now are more online because of all the stuff that's going on, that we're just basically creating and moving and forward, even though we're doing that. But sometimes because of the stimulation and because of where we're coming from. When I say where we're coming from a really inverted, lower state of being, that there's a little bit of a dancing because the majority of the population is still, very deep into the game and thinking that the game is going to be the good or bad part of where we head from here. The whole savior complex, or the fact that we need this person in there or else things are not going to progress. Well, there are different outcomes and different potentialities from either one at this time. And then we decide before it even rolls out, if it's going to go one way or another. Now, of course, there's a preference and there's a lot of energy put into that preference, but you have to look at it the way it's playing out right now. It's actually part of the so-called disclosure and everything else that's showing up. But it's not about looking for the victim, the villains, or whatever. It's about looking at where we're putting our attention in. Because even in the simulation, why do they do it?
Right.
And we're involved. Don't think it's done outside of us, okay? All right? Not everybody's involved because some people choose not to.
Who's better to fool you than yourself?
Yeah. So the thing is, we're involved, and you're saying, okay, let's try it out. Let's see how it goes. First of all, how we respond individually, whatever else, and having one going out to the other. But also at the same time, like, we want to keep progress going really quickly, but we don't create an overload, because that's what happens. There's an overload, and then the defaults kick in much more. For example, all of a sudden, there was a shutdown where all the media shuts down, everything goes down, power grids go down. Where's it going to go? Are people going to awaken? Well, some are going to say, oh, great, now we come together, whatever. But everybody else, there's going to be a larger chunk that's going to go into survival, fear, killing each other, doing whatever, trying. So that is still overloaded on the side, which can slow things down. So we say, okay, well, definitely that can't go there. So we'll make adjustments to make sure we don't go that direction, right? So not that far, maybe just a little bit, and kind of play it that way. But this is just because of the unprecedented movement and growth that we're trying to do, or aiming for and working towards, and also in the midst of it, that, we don't want to have any distractions that are too powerful. Yeah. See, the thing is, it's about self-empowerment, really. It's not about one system better than another system. It's realizing that we are coming together and create systems that are seamless and do not require restrictions or anything of that nature, coming into that truer state of ourselves. And that's really what's going on. But a lot of people are uncomfortable with that because of the fact that we've played the other game so long that we get so
comfortable. All we knew, though. It's all we knew.
Exactly.
It's literally like people going into new frontiers, I mean, you read in the old history books about conquering America and exploring America and other places, North Pole, South Pole, whatever. But it's a lot like that. It's absolutely, I don't know, like to me, the pure creation energy is being more open, going places, developing templates and blueprints that have never been before. They've been, you had this one, you added to it through your experience, and you did your best to put that out there. Yeah. So, with everything that that you can recollect, which, you're somebody who has memories of the womb, of other planetary incarnations, and I'm sure earthly incarnations. In terms of plugging yourself into a certain space and time, how does this place that we're in now, that we share together, rank with the best of the best?
Well,
I mean, as far as potential and opportunity.
Yeah, the amount of capacities to learn, the capacities of the spectrum being the broadest, and the level of polarity and the fact of what we are accomplishing in such a short period of time, even though time does not exist, but through a short intervals of change factors and pulses that it's hard to compare, because in a sense, it's like, let me give you a simple little example. Okay, this is fun. Somebody asked me this a while back, and I said, everybody talks about heaven, so let's play with that story. And you now go to heaven, and everything is just like rosy and beautiful. You got everything you want, and you're going to be. Eventually, you're going to enjoy it for the longest time, and so forth. And then you're going to get to the point and say, "Well, this is getting boring here.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me go somewhere else, because I want to go try something else, because I'm not really enjoying this part anymore." And this is the thing. It's not about reaching nirvana. We create nirvana where we are, and then we move on to try something else. So right here on planet Earth, where we're playing, and the reason, like you said before, I want to be here, even though you can get the option to say, well, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And, I had that opportunity many times now, even through my death experience. I still chose to come back here because I saw that not only can you contribute, but what can be done here in such a point that we're at right now, I don't think anything would match it in exhilaration, capacity, accessibility, and so forth. Yeah, there are other planets that are more advanced, that do not have polarity, that do not have sacrifice, suffering, or lack, or restrictions, or that we have to be slaves, or anything. It doesn't exist there. And they definitely experience things more holistic and whatever else in many ways compared to what we're doing here. But also realizing that what we're capable of here, as we do the stage of upgrading, it will supersede it in many, many ways once we get there. And we're working towards that. And the thing is, the beauty of this, because most planets have fixed dense dimension capacities with a little bit of variance, where planet Earth was never designed that way. It was designed to have multi-dimensional capacities and expressions. Some planets do have a little bit of it, but this one's kind of unique in itself, because it did have from third to 9. Now it has third to 12, right? Organic.
Well, back to those 12, the 12 contributors, the 12 seeds. Too.
Now, exactly. The thing is, now we may not experience ourselves in form in 12th dimension. We may use the consciousness of it, but also operate at a lower dimension, because the higher dimension you go, the more transparent you become, less realism is expressed and experienced. One of the things that feels so good is to have real feeling sensorial experiences, which you won't, the higher the dimensions you go, less experiential.
Spaghetti.
Yeah, at that point.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
I mean, I remember several years ago, I visited the universe that my soul was from, and and the position that I had there, or the soul had there, not Franco, but it had high ranking order or whatever it is. Not that there was any hierarchy. It was just like, okay, level of wisdom and whatever else that was able to access. And it was great to see and to reconnect with all the beings that were from that universe and all the different associated planets and whatever else. And it was great. In fact, I had a tough time leaving it after a while, because you were going to some of the nostalgia stuff. It's like,
and all those girlfriends too.
This is way better, But again, it still felt very powerful. Okay, I wanted to see what I can come and do here, since my soul was actually involved in the retooling of the planet 15,000 years ago, and the reseeding and the realignments and so forth. So it's like, okay, well, I'm here. I might as well come and do what I need to do. And this from a soul perspective. And then, of course, you take on the physicality, and you go out and play and do what we do. There's an excitement now to just say I give up and I leave. And when I say give up and say, well, I'm not going to stick it out or anything of that nature, it doesn't resonate, because it's like, no, it's, I've been here 63 years, and it's like, wait a minute here. This is just getting exciting now.
We didn't come this far just to come this far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is too, it's like, well, look at all these cool playmates I got, Todd and all that.
I love that. I love that metaphor of, you get to nirvana, you get to heaven, and you're in that space. And I thought of a child when you said it, like it's boredom. The curiosity is peaked, right?
Mhm.
And when you were telling that story, I was like, yeah. And you don't get something for nothing. You have to take the leap. Like the universe is just going to say, hey, do you want to experience more? Here? You get all this wisdom and all this light and all that. No, it's always an equal energy exchange.
Yeah, and the wisdom that you gain and everything else that you gain at this point in time, you basically go into to other playgrounds so you can utilize them in different ways. It's like you learn a skill set of any sort, like just in the human perception of understanding, you learn a skill set and say, well, let me go use my skill sets in different opportunities and in different scenarios and so forth. And that's the thing. And this is why souls move from planet to planet, work in different dimensions because it wants to experiment and experience everything that it's gained and gain stuff they can't gain anyways.
When you're in when let's say that you are on another planet,
Mm-hmm.
you're I don't know, in your experience, and you're fully integrated in that moment, just like we're conscious here. Do you have in other dimensions, timelines, greater access to the memory of the multidimensional aspects?
That I don't know because I haven't noticed really that much of a difference because I have quite a bit of access as it is as a soul per se. It's not Franco that's got all this access, but, and it's shared through Franco or uses Franco as the vehicle to communicate. Now I know quite a bit myself because I've been exposed to it around and every time that I get to see it, it's like, that becomes part of my memory too. But I can't recall going anywhere at this point in time. Now, the only thing is the communication is different. That I can say. The topics or whatever the communication, besides being mostly telepathic, it goes to another level. So you're basically, okay, this is what I can share with you. I know here when I'm on planet Earth, and I've been here for a long time, at different stages, you're able to say certain things, and other times you're not able to say certain things. Okay. What I talk about now, I had access to this before,
right?
But I couldn't share it.
I got you.
It wasn't to come through. So when you go to these other planets, you're now communicating at a level which resonates with them, and so all of a sudden you're accessing awareness and consciousness and experiences that you don't really use here, but you can use it there. It's like
you're in a higher collective frequency than you are here. So there's more accessible.
Yes. So let me give you an example. This is a simple example, analogy. You may know how to speak 20 different languages, but you're in Canada, you're in the United States, and the prominent communication language is English. So you're going to use English most of the time. But if you go to France, you're now I can talk French and I can use that skill set and even the understanding of how the French, accent is, or even how they feel. Then you can go to another country, an Arab country, and now you're speaking Arab, or you can go in Cuba or whatever, and you can speak Spanish or Mexico, wherever. So you could see how you could utilize different languages. You go to China, you talk Chinese and whatever else. But you don't use those skill sets, maybe incrementally once in a while you meet with somebody that's in the United States that speaks the language and so forth, but you don't really get to use it until you go there. That's just kind of an example. So you go on that planet, now I can access this level of consciousness, this level of communication and so forth. So the communication is different. Even when I'm working with my team, the conversation is very different. It's very focused in one way, but at the same time, we don't talk about the same stuff that we talk about, day-to-day stuff here now. And I'm not talking about the inverted 3D stuff. I'm talking about even the conversation we're having now. I'm talking about the simulation talk about the simulation there, and they say, okay, this is what we're simulating. And then they say, okay, let's see, if we plug this in and remove that in, let's see how that plays out. Or plug this in. So it's a whole different.
Almost like at an architectural level versus a player level. Like I can see that what you're saying. Yeah.
One last thing I want to plug in. When I go to other planets or gone through other planets, you can feel the same way they feel. Because you take on a projected physicality that represents very closely to them. You still have an outline of your own this particular physicality too, even though it's there, but it's like wearing undergarments, but you have another costume on top of it.
Right.
So it's there. So when you're putting on that garment by going there and you allow yourself to be connected with that, you can sense and you can see how they think and what they may feel and how they communicate and so forth, much more in depth. So you have a deeper appreciation of their holographic, what you can call their presence in that particular form and on that particular family planet. Because the thing is, when you're putting on that costume, you're connected to their planet too. So you can feel what all the sentient beings and everything that's there. So that's
cool. That's almost like having a device where you could speak to somebody in your own language and it converts it, both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I've had experiences even in the human form when I was actually doing I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this or not, but there was a period of time where I was actually stepping into other people's bodies.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah. So you could see that your body changed and you can talk and understand and also be able to do certain things that particular individual that you dropped in was able to do. So it's the same thing. There's a real strong connection that is established when you do that.
So before we get out of here, a couple of things. One is I have a question. And two, let's talk about what you got going on and how to access you. So first is like you mentioned 3 or 4 times about this energy that just came in, like in the last 24 hours. I think you said 16 hours, 18 hours.
Yeah. Yep.
I saw a couple of other people write about it. What was that? What is that?
Well, it's an energy that's was designed to actually create more stimulation because we're going into the 12th. The 12th is where we start with the 12th to the 12th. So it's the 12th of December all the way to the 12th of January. The 21st, the solstice time period, that 21st is when it peaks.
Okay.
And that is capping off the lower frequencies so we don't access, it's actually wiping out the lower frequencies. It still have capacities to go to low, but not to the same extreme. At the same time, actually increase the state, but it's also changing some of the scape, how we see, feel, and it also changes the energy field within our body. So we have a stronger connection to the field and we have a stronger connection to our essence, that where we are. So what we've gotten today, or some 18 hours now possibly, but was to kind of prepare us for that. And it was a strong surge for that level of preparation. Mm-hmm. So it could feel like a surge of excitement, but at the same time, excitement has a tendency to make us feel not so good either.
Yeah, kick your ass.
Because what happens is somehow there's a part of you that says, oh, wow, I'm excited, but in this state, whatever that may be. So, and that can feel awkward. So
the Earth Realms hashtag has been hashtag WTF.
Yes.
People, I can tell by their comments.
But, the thing is, this is like really, really powerfully stimulating, and it's very powerful for us at this point in time. So it may feel a little bit awkward or uncomfortable, or feel that you're just getting knocked off your axis completely.
Right.
And you may require some downtime. You may have to make some time to just kind of allow this to move through you and whatever else. But at the same time, if it brings up anything, you're going to be even more capable, because the energy is going to help you to kind of put it into that field a lot easier. So first of all, acknowledge it, thank it, love it, put it in the field, and it'll become even easier for us to do.
On. Right on. So you have the podcast going now, and you have the Advancing Consciousness series, right? Yeah. You're doing both simultaneously. You're doing what, 2 or 3 of the series a week, and then 5 days a week on the podcast?
Yes, the Advancing Consciousness series we're back to doing 2 a week.
Okay.
This week there's only the one, and I'll explain why. And the following week, I think there's only 1 too, because something else is coming up. And the podcast, the intent is to do 7 a week, but it's been more like 4 to 5 because of other things that I've had to deal with, which is some of the stuff we were talking about, these nice strong waves and feeling the body less than functional some days. But anyways, those are coming out. We have a workshop tomorrow. Oh. It's tomorrow and Sunday. So it's the 5th and 6th of December. So it's Saturday, Sunday, depending on where you're at. Eastern time, it starts at 11 a.m. It will go to about 5:30, 6:30 the latest. For the Saturday, then it will continue back on the Sunday, again, 11 a.m. till 6:30. So the theme of it is seeing beyond your current perception to live your new reality. Right. That's what it's about. It's a very process, very entailed workshop. So if you haven't registered, I think Kimberly will put in the links for that. If you haven't registered, it's available. It's donation based. Now, we have the recommended amount, which will just show this is what we would regularly charge, but you can donate whatever you want, more or less. The reason we went donation, because we feel that this is a very powerful workshop, and if somebody's going through financial whatever, we don't want to restrict it. Okay. So in essence, whatever amount you provide, we'll give you access. It's live streamed, interactive, so you can ask questions and so forth and whatever else. And at the same time, if you cannot be with us because of the fact of the time zones or anything else, there will be video and audio recordings that will be available within the week after that. But we will have the actual day streaming available uncut or anything of that nature. Usually when I do the video and audio recordings, I cut them up in segments so that, we stay with the topics, but we'll have that. So that's available. That starts tomorrow at 11 a.m. And do you know the URL address? Hopefully Kimberly will put it up on the chat somewhere.
Okay. If she puts it on one of the chats, I'll copy and paste it to put it on all the platforms.
Okay, great. Right on. So Kimberly, I'm sure you're listening.
All right.
The URL, that'll take you to Eventbrite, and then it gives you, and there's also a video that's an hour and 14 minutes long if you want to watch it. It talks about it's actually a mini workshop on the same topic, but then the full-blown one starts tomorrow. So those are the things that are going right now. So we got the series, we have the podcast, and we now have this workshop. This will be the last workshop for this year, and then we'll see when the next one will be after that.
I'll meet you in the middle. I'll be reaching out to you.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Sounds good. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Appreciate Kimberly. Thank you for everything you're doing. And until the next time.
Yes. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Franco.